Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the special called meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections and Voter Registration. The date is November 7th. Happy Election Day. Time is 4:43 p.m. We are at 2555 Lexington Road in Athens, Georgia. First item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
So,
Motion, Mr. Kadir. You want a second? Second, Mr. Shirley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, agenda is adopted. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Does not appear to be a member of the public here wishing to make comment. Moving on. Next item on the agenda is election day update. The floor is open, and if any board members would like to make a comment, question, concern, and then we'll turn the floor over to the director and the staff. Anyone? Floor?
No.
Okay. Chair recognizes the director if she's ready. You sure you want to problem? Hank, got anything?
I would say we must stay there. That was a good one.
Anything?
I do have a question for the staff.
Okay. Okay, I do have a report for today. A couple of things. For one, as of 2 p.m. today, we have had 2,980 voters who have voted. For advanced voting, we had 2,000. It's just
462.
462 ballots cast. Absentee, we have received 155 ballots for count. I do want to inform you of a matter that is being resolved concerning our absentee ballots. And when we mailed out our absentee ballots, we did not realize that the ballot return envelope did not have our return address on it. So the U.S. Postal Service, as grateful, as gracious as they are, have been sending our absentee ballots to the Secretary of State's office. So we've received 155 ballots. When we were told about them receiving some of our ballots, which was 15 ballots, on October the 30th, I believe it was.
15.
We were told that they had received some of our ballots, so they automatically noticed that the return address wasn't on it, but noticed that the voters' addresses were Athens, so immediately they contacted us. So what they normally do in situations like that, when other counties have done that, they just get in touch with the director and then figure out a way to get the ballots to us. So they offered to send those ballots to us FedEx, and we received them on November 3rd. We were actually able to put them in the system on November 3rd. They also told us that from that point forward, that we would be responsible for getting the ballots if they received any more. Not knowing how many we had omitted that, because, you know, you grab a stack of envelopes and you start putting your labels on it and everything, and you may miss the fact that you forgot to stamp some of the envelopes. That happens, right? But thankfully, the Secretary of State's office are receiving the ballots through the U.S. Postal Service. So we were informed yesterday that they had 11 ballots yesterday. So Audra and a member of her team went down to pick up the ballots. And I'll tell you that when we're collecting these ballots, we are collecting them with a custody form. They're telling us how many ballots it is. We're taking them receiving them, verifying that it's that number of ballots. There's always two people in presence of these particular ballots. So we collected the 11, and then today I got a phone call that they had received 30. Have two people who are meeting a Secretary of State staff team with the ballots in Gwinnett area, and they will have them back here so that they will be in our count for 7 p.m. We could wait and put those in with our certified results, but I want our ballots, every ballot that we have received, either it be from the Secretary of State's office or in our office, to be reflected in our results, our unofficial results today. However it happens, it's gonna happen. So we do have 30 more ballots that will be added to our 155, that will give us 185 ballots at the close of date, unless there are others that are collected at the office, and then that number will be added to our results. Now, if the Secretary of State's office calls us in the morning and says that they have more, that means that they would have received it through the postal service by 7 p.m. So we would go and pick those up as well.
That was my question. Are
Yes.
they,
Yes.
do they like stamp, timestamp like you do? Anything you get?
Don't recall if they timestamp them, but we will stamp them as well, that we've received them. I believe they do because they stamp all of their mail. I'm gonna say yes, but, I haven't seen those envelopes that we received previously, so.
But if they had not forwarded it to the Secretary of State's office, we would have got them earlier. We would have received them a day earlier. So my question is, maybe they might receive a couple of days from now. They would still be valid because otherwise we would have received it by today,
No,
right? No, no.
no, because by law, anyway, the ballots have to be in our office by 7 p.m. Either it be by US Post Office, FedEx,
No,
or,
but they were by 7 p.m. at the Secretary of State's office.
so it'll be 7 p.m. their time.
That time,
If-
okay.
Yeah, at their office.
Okay.
So whatever they receive as of 7 p.m. through the post office, that they will have it tomorrow, and so
Okay.
we would get it tomorrow. Same thing that we would do
Yeah.
with,
I'm just,
I think,
yeah, a scenario that the post office might have kept it with them for a day. And I would not want that to be.
well, our mail, if you mail your neighbor a letter, it goes to Atlanta before it goes to your neighbor, so I
Okay.
don't know if
Yeah,
that
it leaves
particular
that.
logic
It leaves
works in
that.
this scenario, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
agree with you, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to your point, Hank, I
Yeah.
agree that,
Well, this is a small election, but.
I mean, that question has come up before. And I feel like council has given us maybe not the most black and white answer on it. I don't know. Not you, just in general. It's like, I wasn't really ready to formulate the question, but if someone, just like the scenario where they would have ended up at the Secretary of State, we'll get them by 7, but come back to me, sorry, or I'll come back to myself. I can't really formulate the question.
Said, I mean, my only concern is that I'm just assuming that the post office delivers it to the Atlanta Secretary of State office right away and is not holding for a day or something.
Right.
But I'm not expecting any.
That's what I
Tomorrow,
was,
yeah.
that was my question.
Yeah.
So if it's postmarked at the Athens post office at 6:59 on November 7th, but we didn't receive it until November 8th in our mail, why can we not count that?
Cause it has to be
you
here.
can only do that if it's Uwakava. There's only provisions in the code for Uwakava voters,
Okay.
not for civilian.
But does the code specifically say you cannot, or does it say you? That's, I think, the question that I've always had.
Yeah,
Obviously, you haven't studied this, yeah, of course.
Sorry.
But- So my question is that I was rambling, is post office receives a piece of mail that's 6:59 November 7th. But we do not get possession until 1 or 2 days after 6:59 on November 7th. Does the law say specifically it must be, or where is the?
Yeah, I would have to research it, and I would just say, if this isn't an actual situation that we're dealing with right now, I'd be happy to. If it's a hypothetical, I prefer to wait until we actually have the scenario, because otherwise it's just a lot of work that may not ever be.
Right,
Yeah.
but I mean, we often do receive,
The polls
Jesus.
close at 7 o'clock. And if that mail or ballot is not here by 7 o'clock, with the exception of what happened with the Secretary of State, only because the state got it. But if it doesn't get to us by 7 p.m. this evening, then, like I said, then the state being an exception,
but
you
how,
can't count it. That's just that was my understanding of the law.
but how does, I'm sure the law probably doesn't say, well, if the Secretary of State receives it because the envelope was marked wrong, then it's
Yeah.
okay.
That was because there was an error on our part.
But does the law say if there was an error on the elections department's part, then it's okay? See what I'm saying?
I hear exactly what you're saying. What I would say is the law is probably not that specific. I haven't looked at it since I only became aware right before this happened. But in a situation where we have a technical violation that nobody intended, I think the best thing that we can do, and it certainly is what the state election board, or I forget exactly who you were talking to, but Secretary of State is telling us to do is to make those accommodations because it was our error that caused the ballots to go to the improper place to begin with. So this is just a unique situation. I think that's the reason that
Is that
carves us out. As
something?
opposed to we're just failing to mail it in a timely manner.
Would the board, as the superintendent, have to make that decision that we would accept those particular ballots?
That is an interesting question. I'd like to see what Charlotte thinks about that.
I'm not concerned about this election, but I want to be prepared for. Next year.
I mean, this has always been an ongoing concern. I believe in postmark date, but
Yeah, me too.
So, Charlotte, the excellent question from Raffle was, does the board, does the superintendent need to take any action? Like, do they need to vote to clarify that they are accepting those late due to this error essentially? Like, do you think that we need to take any action?
I think it wouldn't hurt to have it recorded, because I did make a report of what happened. I think that would be wise.
I
in case
agree
it
with
comes
that.
up
I
later.
would feel better too if we
Right.
entered into the official record and taking an action.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that makes total sense.
Can we do that on Monday though? We don't need to do that right now, or because they're coming on the third. Do we need to do that right
They're
this
coming
second?
today.
But there may be some tomorrow.
Yes.
Right, that's why I was saying if we
And
wait
then I'm
until
gonna report
Monday,
that Monday, and then y'all would
To
vote
accept.
Monday.
these plus,
Yes,
Because of the error.
yes, yes.
do we need just a simple motion? Should we prepare a little paragraph or something, or what?
And I think there'd be some value in having a really specific set number, like we're accepting 35 ballots or whatever that we received. What did the Secretary say? And that way, we don't have to do a separate motion on Monday. So I think waiting makes a lot of sense, whatever day it is that meeting.
Could you make us like a
Yeah,
blank with,
yeah, I
we
can
can
do that.
insert number here
Yep, absolutely.
thing, and hopefully you have enough time before Monday for that.
Yeah, that will not be a problem.
Now, does that mean we will have to convene all those folks who came here for duplication and stuff?
They're coming on Monday anyway.
Yes, yes. Which brings another, question. So with these 30 ballots, and Sherry, this will be, receive an explanation from the Secretary of State's office that's really left up to our board and you being our attorney on what we would do with this specific situation, because we're receiving these 30 ballots and our vote review panel and duplication team is not here, that the board can serve as the vote review panel if we need clarification with any of the ballots, like if one didn't scan, or if we need to make some kind of determination.
We did that with signatures in 2020. Yeah.
Okay.
So
And what, sorry, just to catch me, what is, So you were saying the panel will reconvene on Monday anyways. What's the scenario in which the board would need to step in?
To process the ballots that we'll be receiving in just a few minutes from the Secretary of State.
Oh, you mean to?
Yes,
today.
we'll receive today.
Because the panel will not be here tonight.
Yes,
Okay, and your recollection, Chairman Raffles, that we did that in 2020. And
Yeah,
the state has given you authorization on this, essentially the attorney's office has come forward.
yes.
I think that's fine under this unusual circumstance.
anything else, Director?
Yes. Number 6. Yeah, okay. Sherry, read number 6 and. Now, there's one more thing I need to bring to your attention. It took place today at the Wintersville Train Depot.
I heard about it.
They told me.
So let me get
Your neighbor.
my things together, okay? So the manager, co-manager Shakina Robinson, was approached today by a voter being named, Mr. Terry Howard. He came into the polling location and, was not, actually, I'll just tell you this. I have the incident report. I'll just read the incident report. Voter came in around 8 a.m., checked in at the poll pad. The voter asked the clerk at the poll pad, is the Wi-Fi hooked up to the card? And he called out a long battery number starting with the 999 and so on. And the clerk informed him the Wi-Fi is not hooked up to nothing. And he said, how about the printer? And the clerk said, sir, that nothing is hooked up to the Wi-Fi. So he proceeded to the BMD and cast his vote on the BMD. As going to the scanner, he asked the manager to take a picture of the QR code. And she said, we are prohibited from taking a picture of your ballot. And he said, I know that. But he stated he needed to see what's behind the QR code. So he needed the manager to take the picture for him and she told him that that's not allowed. And it's prohibited. And he said, you're violating my constitutional rights again, and tears his ballot, throws it in her face, and walked off saying you violated the constitutional rights. I am, thinking that this is in violation of 21-2-576 and could be in violation of other possible state election board rules.
Could you give us that number again, sir?
21-2-576, which speaks on tearing or violent or causing any damage to a ballot. And it could be your own ballot. So I'm wanting to get your recommendation, or if you would recommend this being brought before the state election board or to the Secretary of State's office so that it can be further investigated to find if there was any other violations, as this violation states that it is a misdemeanor. So I just want to get your side on it and see if it's something that we need to proceed with.
So my two first thoughts, one of which has nothing to do with elections code, is assault of a public. Is that assault, throwing something at someone, a public employee? That's what I'm most concerned with, is
Simple stuff.
whether it's verbal assault, at least, our employee, our manager. That's my first concern.
Yeah, so what I would say is all the things we're talking about technically are criminal, both the assault and technically the violation of the statute that Charlie just read. So to the extent that there are concerns that a crime was committed, a good option is always to call the police and let them make that determination. In terms of assault, typically, and I haven't actually read the word of the statute recently, but typically it needs to be some sort of verbal threat, or it needs to be placing someone in fear. I'm not sure that tearing up some paper and throwing it is something that would arise to that level, but that's where the police would come in and make a decision as to whether they felt within their discretion that it was worth bringing a charge. I mean, technically, it might be a simple battery, which is a strange thing to say if it actually touched the individual, because simple battery is essentially any kind of unwanted contact. Spitting is simple battery, for example. But even that would probably be a stretch. So what Cheryl and I discussed this earlier today, we thought it was reasonable to go ahead and report it to the state election board and let them begin that investigation. But the reality is it says it's a misdemeanor. So if there's an intention to move forward, the police really need to be involved.
Yeah, so yeah, my thought is I tend to not choose to involve the police if possible, but the fact that one of our people has been verbally or bad, whatever word it is, that's my first concern. And then the tearing up the ballot, the 576 section, I think that it should be referred to the state election board. I don't know what my colleagues think, but.
Well, my question is, how does our poll work manager feel about it? Do we have any feedback from her in terms of was she feeling threatened? Was she annoyed? Would she like to press
Right.
a charge as a misdemeanor, or for her, it's like, another day at the polls? I mean, if it's just a minor thing, I was not inclined to, I would like to hear from her. What would she like us to do? I would support whatever she would want us to do.
I really don't want to take it out of any context as far
Right.
as she's concerned.
Right.
I think she handled it very well.
Yep.
But to know how she felt specifically about it, I'm not sure.
Did she ask you to press, see if there was anything
She
that
just
could be
didn't
done?
like it. She just said, I didn't like it.
Well,
So,
hey, Lisa, is there a time when you would sit down with her after today? Obviously, we don't need to bother her in the next 2 hours or so.
She will be through here at 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like tomorrow, can you call her and say, hey, just run her through all the things we're talking about and just, then we can. She says it's fine, then that's her life and it's fine. We'll deal with the ripping up of the ballot and move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. Charlotte and I can call her, or I can call her, then refer her to Charlotte, I'd rather, or make the decision if she wants to.
Why not talk to
Pursue
her
it as-
tonight when she turns?
Well, probably because she's thinking it's been a long day, they're
Then,
tired,
yeah,
she's ready to go home. And not delay her and make her talk about it tonight, but I guess we could ask her if she wants to.
yeah, and the back of my mind of why I'm talking about this so much is all the other things that we have been, knock on wood, not happen to our poll workers here. This is like,
Yeah.
this is something, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Far worse things have happened to folks in other parts of this state.
Exactly.
I don't want to, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Will.
Perhaps tonight, one of you can ask her if she would write a statement, and that would probably give her some clarity on how she felt about it.
She wrote it.
Okay.
We got instant report. And this is her writing, so.
Okay, that's good. So she might want to read over that and reflect on it, and then get back with you all.
I guess I'm curious with regards to, sorry, Dr. Schultz, I believe you asked us like what we think as far as how to proceed with this. In your experience, and you've been doing this for a couple of years now, has something like this happened in your experience with previous elections? Is there I mean, not this exact thing, I guess, but something like that ran afoul of the law? Like, is there like, what would your procedure be that you learned as best practice?
Well, if you recall, November last year, we had something similar and same voter.
Oh,
Yeah,
That name sounded familiar.
ah,
Absolutely.
okay,
same polling location.
right.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like it's not our job to decide anything about it. It's our job to refer it to the state election board. And that's the end of it.
And or the police. Because this
I was
also,
gonna-
could also be disorderly conduct.
That's, yeah, I'm wondering, because like there's the state election board is, like, well, what are the consequences of the state election board?
Would
What
they
what
refer to the
now?
police?
They would
or
refer to
PPI or-
to the Attorney General's office, and then they would be the one to
I see.
pursue charges. Right?
Meanwhile, so then calling the police about this, getting the local police involved would be more about perhaps if the, whether there was a question of battery or disorderly conduct, that kind of thing. It wouldn't be
Police
about.
have every right to enforce any misdemeanor or felony in the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
So I candidly, I don't know enough about the state election board or the AG's position in this to know whether they would take on a misdemeanor of this themselves. I will just defer to their experiences to that. But certainly the police could arrest someone for this misdemeanor and bring charges if they choose.
So I guess my last thought on this for now is, given that, sure enough, this OCGA is one sentence.
Mhm.
Any person who willfully destroys or defaces any ballot shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. There's no subsection, there's no, so in this case, is it for, I guess this might be, is it more for your prerogative whether to call the police to report this and have them investigate it? Or is it to wait for the SEB to ultimately get there, or
I think both,
do both?
because
and
the
make it-
state election board is gonna handle Title 21 and any state election board rule that's been violated.
Right.
They won't handle the other.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Just as a matter of, just as a matter of looking at her as an employee, she's reported to us, so what is our responsibility to contact the police?
that's her employer, yeah.
So you have to look at it on that wise, I think.
I'm fully in support of what.
I mean, I feel like that's Nikki's decision, then, since they're an employer, or Nikki and Charlotte, like, it's a staff.
Right, yeah, they're not our, yeah,
It's
they-
not
Operational, you know,
Right, that's not our
the
business.
safety of our
Either.
workers in general are our responsibility.
Right. Ann, you do anything to add?
From what I've heard, it sounds like a decision because of what the book says has been created, and we need to let whatever authorities that this would fall under should take this in hand. And I don't see that we really have any responsibility in it because we're not law keepers. I would let Secretary of State, Police, whoever has jurisdiction over this handle it.
It would be like if someone attacked me on the job, then it would be my supervisor's responsibility to call law enforcement.
Okay, in the sake of moving forward, do we need to take an action?
40.
Yeah, Sherry, is there any?
I don't think there's any requirement to taking action
Okay,
unless you choose to take some further action.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure the SEB will already know, or is it just a matter of simply forwarding the incident report and that's the end of that?
Yes,
And then they take it from there?
yes.
So they'll call you
contact
back.
us, and then they'll call the poll worker, and yes, and then we'll go before the state election board as the Athens-Clarke County Board of Election.
A question.
Well, go ahead.
Are you satisfied with that being what we do? If so, I completely support you. If you'd like us to do something additional, given the potential for, it wasn't just that, like last time when this person did something similar. It didn't involve our poll manager and a confrontation like that. And from what well, did it? It did. Well, anyway, is there, do you think it might be better to have something else that's more immediate? Because the state election board will take until this month, maybe next month, to get to all this pile of, from this election. If you want something sooner, I support you, whatever you recommend us do. Just let the process play out next month, or something more immediate.
I mean, what does referring to law enforcement mean? Like, is Charlotte gonna go in the hallway and call 911? Like, what?
A non-emergency number, but
What?
yes, you call the non-emergency employee's number and make a report.
So what we'll do is I'm going to send an email to chief's office right now with Charlotte, and
Yeah,
we'll try to plan accordingly for the next one for sure. What we do with this one, we'll talk about. But for the next one, because it's the same person at the same polling location.
Right.
And it would be helpful, I don't know if there's any video, I'm guessing there probably isn't video surveillance in there, because obviously there's state law regarding cameras, but if there is any kind of security footage that may show anything going on or sort of that.
Yeah, and I see it as two separate things. Our poll worker, our poll manager, and this voter. And we're only concerned with this voter, and I'm in support of forwarding to the SCB. And that's.
On that part, right?
And as far as our poll worker, defer to staff and hope that they take whatever action they feel necessary.
See, I fear that this is not the last we have heard of Mr. Howard. And is there anything the poll workers can do when this probably will happen again in March and November next year?
You need a paper trail.
Hmm.
You need a paper trail. So you're gonna have to more or less get law enforcement involved.
So let's,
But I don't think
Let's-
that's our responsibility as a board.
Right.
let's take a vote on the SCB piece of it. And just, that way it's in the minutes.
Okay,
It's in the minutes anyway, but yeah.
Well, yeah, the action that we recommend,
Yeah, according to section, whatever.
yeah, so.
So you want a statement saying that the board heard the information and their decision is to forward it to law enforcement, whatever agencies typically take care of this type of action.
Sure,
I would, instead of saying the board heard, I would recommend that we say, after hearing the, whatever she read, after hearing this,
incident report.
let's stay out of the incidents. Yeah, well, yeah, it would go in like that, yeah. After hearing the incident report and hearing the code, hearing the code, the board recommended that it be forwarded to.
The proper agency.
State election board for review.
Because we are not that agency.
Exactly.
Did you capture that in the form of a motion?
I thought to accept the Representative's recommendation to report the incident to the state election board, but I'm hearing language about after hearing the incident report and the relevant code section.
It's the board's recommendation that will be passed on to the Secretary of State or
State election board.
state
Two separate.
board, yeah, I'm sorry, state election. board, yeah.
State election board.
Mhm.
Okay,
Floor is open. If the secretary would like to read that motion, we'll make it.
I'm having a hard time parsing it into a motion, but
Okay.
after hearing the incident report and the relevant code section, it is the board's recommendation that the incident be passed along to the state election board. That's what I've heard.
Mhm.
A motion, but like, a motion to,
Proceed.
okay, motion to proceed
With this action.
with. Oh, I see now. After that having been said, a motion to proceed with this, okay. Motion by to proceed with this. In this manner, motion by, you got it. Okay, so after hearing the incident report and the relevant code section, it is the board's recommendation that the incident be passed along to the state election board. Motion by someone to proceed in this manner. That,
And the floor is open for whoever would like to make that motion. If no one, I will.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Second, Ms. Willow, motion by Mr. Kadir. All those in favor,
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Okay, I think we're good. Let's move on.
Don't sound like me.
Next item on the agenda are announcements.
One
Wait,
quick
did I
question
have any?
for Charlie.
Oh, did you have more? Okay, we'll save it for a rainy day. How about that?
I covered everything.
Slide was right on out the door, aren't you?
Oh, I will tell you that we are getting in touch with the vote review panel and getting them back, so if they don't come back.
Okay.
yes. But yeah,
And we would do that tonight.
yes, on those
Yeah.
30 ballots.
Sure, sure.
And our staff has the ballots in hand now. They're gonna stop by and get date stamped at the office, and then they're gonna bring them here so they can be processed.
And then Audra and your people will process them. If there's a question, the five of us will review.
A quick question on that. So
think we
Did
have
it make sense to have the vote review panel come in at noon? They could have come in at 4:30 or 5 for elections and then continue on doing this till votes come in. Does it make sense to use your resources and have them come in? But we usually have them come in at noon.
They weren't here at noon.
Hmm?
They were here at
Oh,
noon.
yeah, I was here at noon.
Okay.
But that's what I mean. Does it make sense to have them come at noon for subsequent elections day? Why not have them come at 5 p.m. or,
Because there's
immediately
usually
after?
Depends on the size of
Quantity.
the election.
Yeah.
I would think.
There's usually much more.
Or-
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
didn't have that many this time, but it was just easier just to let them just come on in at noon instead of changing.
Next year, I wish instead of noon, they might be need to be coming at 9 o'clock.
Okay, well, that's-
About 8 o'clock.
Your problem.
Yeah, I'll just have it in the bed open.
Okay,
Okay,
we're
then
still in
that's
a meeting, so let's just wrap this up. Did you have any additional comments? Anybody else? Okay, the announcements are as follows. On Monday, November 13th, the Board of Elections has a special called meeting. We will certify this election. And the meeting will be held at 2555 Lexington Road. And then we have a regular meeting the following day at 120 West Doherty Street. And then on December 5th, which is a change from our normal meeting, which would be on December 12th.
Right.
Normally, yeah, we will be attending a conference here in Athens, so we've moved the date up 1 week to December 5th. That will also be at 120 West Doherty Street. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Chair will entertain a motion.
I so move.
Do we have a second? Mhm. Motion, Ms. Willa, second, Ms. Till. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nope.